Hello, everyone. This is Collapse Club, the podcast. I'm David Baum in Seattle, joined by my colleagues and friends, Matthew Paynton in England and Susan Porter in Washington, just recently arrived. Hello, Matthew.
Hi, David. Hi,
Hello,
Susan.
Susan.
Hello. Good to see you guys.
Today we are going to discuss what we call the fivefold path of collapse acceptance. This is a description of the process that we think people go through moving from when they first learn about collapse to reaching a personal accommodation in their life to how they're going to live now that they know. The concept of collapse acceptance has been most elucidated by Karen Perry, and you'll find a link to her website in the episode notes below. I'm just going to go through the what we call the fivefold path really quick to give a foundation to what we're going to talk about and to make our listeners familiar. 1, knowledge. Find out, freak out. Fear. 2, feelings. Grieve and metabolize. Grief. 3, change. Accept the loss of normal. Stability. 4, discovery. Watch for new perspectives. Vision. And 5, love in action. Choose what is yours to do. Purpose. So we will expand that slightly gnomic condensation and talk more about the process. Starting with knowledge, my knowledge of collapse came principally or was sparked by Jem Bendel's 2018 paper about deep adaptation. That's what brought me to the deep adaptation group. Matthew, you are very much involved with deep adaptation, even to this day.
Indeed. Yeah, I would say my freak out happened in about 2017, 2018. And that's when I found my way to the Deep Adaptation Forum.
And you have developed a method about step 2, feelings, grieving, and metabolizing. Could you talk briefly about the importance of metabolizing grief?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of knowledge out there about the seriousness of climate change, especially. But that knowledge, the scientific knowledge, the information doesn't necessarily translate into action. And I think the collapse perspective is like a threshold perspective where there's no going back. You cross the tipping point into realizing, oh, how serious this is. And that almost always produces a physiological, emotional, psychic freak out, which has to be metabolized, has to be processed, it has to be felt, it has to be talked through, preferably in the company of other people.
Susan, you helped me understand step 3, change, accepting the loss of normal and arriving at emotional stability. Can you talk about the process you went through accepting the reality of collapse?
Yeah, I started out with the Michael Dowd group in 2022, I believe. And that was when I had suspected that, things were going bad for quite some while before that. But in that group, I really came to know that yeah, it is actually collapsing. And for me, my background is in Al-Anon, and acceptance is one of the basic principles of that program. And so I was able to take some of the principles from that program and apply them to my knowledge of collapse, and for me, accepting what I can't change was important for that. I need to know what I can change and what I cannot change. And there's much I can't change in the realm of collapse. And so that was a big part of my background already. And so I started to apply that to my collapse acceptance, I guess. And I did have to go through the grieving part of it. At some point, that all came to a head on one day for me, and I had to spend a whole day just sobbing and yelling at my higher power and bargaining and all those things that we do. But when I got finished with that, there was a calm after that. And so for me, I had to just go straight into the grief and face it all. But then after that, there was an acceptance of, okay, this is real, and here I am, and what am I going to do next? Who do I want to be? And so it really focused me to figure out what was really important to me and to make some decisions around that over a couple of years or so. And one of
So
those was
sorry.
our Collapse Club meetings.
So your involvement in Collapse Club was a result of your going through this threshold of acceptance.
Yes. Yes. And wanting to, for one thing, just wanting to be with people who saw the things that I saw and, felt the things that I had felt and learned from their process. But also just to provide some space for others to find that was important to me to participate in the process with others.
Some people find the word acceptance to be a little difficult to accept. It seems to imply that somehow collapse is okay, or we don't mind so much, or it's not an outrage. It doesn't hurt us to know about it. What does it mean to accept collapse without sort of giving into it? Either one of you.
That's a really good question. It's not a capitulation. It's not a giving up. That's not the experience of most people I talk to, or my own experience. It's, for me, one of the important parts is not having to go over the same ground again and again and again, wondering if it's happening, or when it's going to happen, or how bad it's going to be. It's in my being, it's settled that something we can call collapse, this very uncertain, uneven, weird, catastrophic process, is actually occurring. And I don't need to keep convincing myself or looking for the evidence to it's settled in my being. Okay, it's happening. And that frees up the bandwidth for the other steps, which is, okay, what's mine to do?
I would agree with everything Matthew just said, and just note that for me, it was really important to accept the reality of the situation. I can no longer pretend that this is not happening. I can't unknow it, like you were saying earlier. And it is a part, of my reality. And therefore, once I get to that point where I have accepted that reality, then I can make a wiser choice.
So the acceptance of collapse does not end your life. It doesn't remove all your choices. It opens a new category of choices, is what I think I hear you saying.
Yeah, that's what it did for me anyway. It just made me get more clear about what I want to do with my life, where I want to be, which I ended up moving. So to live closer to my son in Washington, that was important to me. And, you know, making the decision to stick with Collapse Club and other groups, so I can feed my own soul or whatever to help me continue to do that.
And that's a really good point. It's if there were like big red letters in the sky saying it's all going to end on this date, it'd be much easier to plan around. But in fact, what we have to do is make really important life decisions on the basis of profound uncertainty. We don't know how it's going to unfold, how quickly, when disaster is going to come into our personal orbit. But like you say, it's a different choice and decision space that you enter into. It's very different from the business as usual choice and decision space.
The fourth item on our list is discovery. Watch for new perspectives. Find a vision of what your life might look like. For me, that's been a very important aspect of my collapse acceptance journey. For me, the knowledge of collapse changes the context of the entire world and points to things that are important that I didn't understand, or I didn't have access to how important they were. And I'm talking about very commonplace things, very everyday things, just the relationships I have with people, or taking care of my cat, or walking down the street and enjoying the beautiful day. I'm privileged to still be able to do that because the worst effects of collapse have not reached me as they have reached other people in other parts of the world, in other parts of my city. But the discovery of to use a flowery phrase, an inner radiance to everyday life has really been the phenomenon that has happened to me. And for me, it was like when you have to give up your business as usual life, another life, or the fabric of real life is revealed. What have you guys discovered?
For me, I feel like this whole process has pulled me into the present moment and made me think about what it is to be alive, to be a living creature on this world. You know, if it's possible, a possibility exists that life is not going to continue on this world, what does that mean for my experience of living, of being alive? And it really pulls me into the present moment and makes me notice the things that are happening around me. You know, when I'm out walking my dog, I just notice the smallest things, you know, certain trees or plants or people who are walking by. It's like I've suddenly see all those things instead of being lost in my mind thinking about some random thing. So yeah, it's intensified the experience of living for me. Maybe not 24/7, but much more often than before.
Yeah, beautifully put. I'd agree with that. There's a poignancy and a vibrancy to the present moment, and the weirdness and the beauty that is still here. One of the things I do, I'm going to show you. I've always been interested in photography, and I've been doing insect portraiture. And there's a piece of waste ground near me that's about to be developed, and it's got all kinds of thistles and weeds, and I'm just, keep asking the question, who's living here, before it gets developed, and just marveling at these other beings, and there is a poignancy, there's a grief there that they're in trouble. We're in a part of collapse is a mass extinction, and these amazing creatures are winking out of existence. So there's a grief to that, but there's also a presence, and if I can do anything to protect them, that's one of the things I'm doing.
Well, speaking of doing, the last item in the list is what we call love in action. Choose what is yours to do. Finding a purpose, or learning the purpose, or choosing the purpose of your life. Love in action is a term coined by the late Michael Dowd. And it refers, I think, it refers to what happens when you are animated not by the thought of future results, but by the upwelling of love, compassion, the urgency of connecting with your fellow beings. And it gives rise of its own accord to action on behalf of others and oneself, so that one has the capacity to act for others. In my case, Collapse Club is a result of that. And before that, I was involved with deep adaptation. Before that, I was involved in emergency preparedness. And before that, in animal sheltering. I've always been searching for the way to help. I don't think there is one way. But for me, now, my purpose is just to talk to people. I've come down to the idea that just making connections of whatever kind is the central important thing. And there's many dimensions to that. But that's my love in action. What have you guys figured out to do?
One of the things that you made me think of was how, talking to people is so important. But for me, also listening to people, like opening up a space of listening so that I'm really present with people and hear what they say. I think that's so lost in our culture right now, where people just don't feel seen or heard. And so anytime that I can interact with a human or a being, any other being, and actually be in their presence and listen, I think anywhere I am, that's kind of an action for me. It's a conscious action of to slow down and pay attention and just be with others and listen and see them.
Yeah, same for me. I call it more than me enlivenment, that when we find what it is ours to do and act on behalf of what we love with or for others, it's inherently worthwhile no matter what. I've been a coach and a group facilitator for many years. I've adapted my practice, so I get to spend lots of people just accompanying people on their journey of collapse awareness, and that enlivens me and it enlivens them, and that's my service and my vocation in this.
It occurs to me, I forgot to mention that all three of us are conveners for Collapse Club. Excuse me. That is to say that we tend and conduct the meetings that Collapse Club has twice a week, where people get to share their experience of collapse in their life and their feelings about it and the process they're going through. looking at the process as a whole, the journey that people take from fear through grief to stability in pursuit of vision and landing on a purpose. It's my opinion that our process in Collapse Club is designed to facilitate that journey, to offer people, as we say, a safe and structured space where they can express themselves and hear others, to learn about the journey and where they are and what the possibilities might be. Do you guys have thoughts about how our practice in Collapse Club helps people along the journey of acceptance?
Yeah, because it's a spiral, not a straight line for a start. You know, it's one step forward, two steps back, whatever, you know. And to hear other people at different stages of the journey or different aspects of it is really, really beneficial. And something happens in the groups you can't really describe. And you know, if anybody's watching this and hasn't joined a group, I really recommend you do, because something happens. It kind of recenters us in our humanity together, and that's a magic you can't really describe, but it has to be experienced. How about you, Susan?
I think what the most important aspect of our meetings is that it's a safe place, that we create a place of safety, because I know for me, before I became a part of the Collapse community, there was no place for me to talk about climate change or, any of the strangeness that was going on. I didn't feel safe with people to say those things. I felt judged by people when I did try to say those things. And so what I want to bring to Collapse Club is a feeling of acceptance of others, like whatever you bring is accepted. And wherever you are in the process, it's okay. We're not going to judge you, that it's safe to explore this with these people. And I think people get that pretty quickly, the ones who continue to go to the meetings. And I know several of our members are really good at affirming what others have said and helping them to feel safe as well. So it's like we have a mutual agreement that we're all going to be safe and support each other in that space.
Thank you for that. Well, as we approach the end of our talk today, I'd like to shift gears just slightly. For those of us deeply involved in collapse awareness and talking about it, thinking about it, being with others in that context, what we're talking about today seems natural after we've been with it for a number of years. But a lot of people in the world, a lot of people in our lives have no inkling. They may have a general knowledge that bad things are happening, the climate's kind of messed up, and the government's messed up, and this economic system doesn't work, and people are suffering. I think that feeling is pretty widespread. But the idea that there is a way to deal with it and that they themselves might benefit from like dealing with it, that's not on the table. And I wonder, do we have a duty to try to bring this up in every conversation and try to get people to face what we face? Or is it some other, how do we deal with the normies? What are we supposed to do in the world of business as usual when we have to be there?
Well, one of the things I do these days, I never try to convince anyone that we're in collapse. What I do, if I'm getting to know somebody or with somebody, I say, we're probably not going to agree on this, but if you want to understand me and my moods and my life choices and how I am and how I see the world as in collapse. But it's fine for you not to share that opinion. Then people tend to get curious rather than feel they have to defend or push back, because it's terrifying for them. You know, what if what we're saying is true and they haven't considered it, then it's going to be terrifying for them. So and that doesn't help in all cases, but it does help in some cases.
Yeah, it helps me to remember just compassion for them. I feel like I have more compassion for others now. But not everybody can take this in. And, you know, just meeting them where they are, I think is the only thing for me to really do. And if I have something to contribute a little more toward the conversation about climate change or collapse or whatever, then I might try to slip that in if I feel like there's going to be a reception of it. But if not, I don't worry about it. I try to have compassion for that person, for, you know, right where they are, and just hope that they are okay with where they are. You know, I have a regular prayer practice. That's part of how I deal with life. And I pray for people, you know, just that they'll be okay and that they'll get what they need. And that helps me in relating to other people and letting go of any kind of anger or impatience that I might have with others because they don't understand what I understand or see what I see.
Thank you for that. Well, before we go, Susan, I want to give you the last word. You described a day of screaming at your higher power. It sounds like that was really a heck of a day. Can you tell us the story of that time?
Oh, I don't even know how it got started, really. Something that happened earlier in the day triggered that. And my mind went completely to the place of everything is going to die. And the hugeness of that caused a lot of sorrow to come up in me. And I just leaned into it. For some reason, I was ready that day to lean into that and to fully, you know, just go there. I guess I had spent quite a while before that pushing it away, the feelings away, and trying to keep it all inside my head instead of going into my heart. And so at that point, it just went. And I don't recommend it. It was a really unpleasant day. But at the end of that experience, there was a surrender. I even told my higher power to just take me out because I couldn't deal with it. I was like, I'm ready to leave now. And of course, my higher power was like, whatever. And I'm still here. And so there's a reason, I guess. But after that, there was a surrendering of, okay, I don't understand what's going on here, and I don't know why I'm here, and I don't know what's, you know, I don't understand this, but whatever it is I need to do, then help me do it. But there was a surrendering of all the pushback and the resistance that was causing me pain. And I think letting that go really helped me move on instead of staying stuck in that grief.
How do you feel about how that has worked out for you or is working out for you now in your life?
I still have moments of sadness, but it's not the deep, debilitating grief that I had at that time. I haven't had a need to have a total breakdown of emotion since then. It's like I released it all. But I do still experience sadness, I still experience anger sometimes about the way things are going and frustration. But those things kind of flow through me now instead of stopping me and tying me up in knots for periods of time, long periods of time. And just knowing that I have a place to go and talk about it. I have friends in the collapse community that understand. Knowing that helps a lot too. That there is support if I need it. You know, if I do get in a bad place, I have people I can contact and talk to them. And that's important for me.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Susan. Matthew, do you want to have a last summary before we go?
Yeah, I think just same as what Susan said, really, that since my total meltdown, which did last a long time, 6 months or so of anxiety and deep depression, I cycle through the moods much quicker now. And I still feel all the feels. They're really intense at times, but there's less stuckness. And that's one of the sort of real qualities of collapse acceptance for me, is to be able to, and that means I'm more available to do the good stuff as well. So it's not just about feeling all right in myself. It's I'm more available to help.
I also had a single day in which my grief came pouring out. This was decades ago. I was with my girlfriend at the time, and suddenly I started crying, and I didn't even know why, but I cried so hard that I felt like my mind was completely exhausted and totally on the edge of a complete abyss. And if she hadn't been there to support me, I said to her, just stay with me. Just stay with me. I don't know what's happening, but I need you here. And she did. And she kept me from going insane and going over the abyss. And after that, my life changed gradually. But I always wondered about that, about how my grief came out all in one horrible session, one expulsion of all this grief through tears. Very strange and very scary. And I was just lucky I had a female spirit there to help shepherd me through. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you, Susan, for joining us. Thank you, Matthew, for being here.
Thank you, David.
Look in the episode notes for a link to Collapse Club if you'd like to join us at one of our meetings. Look also for Karen Perry's 15 Benefits of Collapse Acceptance, which is a very illuminating list of freedom and opportunity and strength. This is Collapse Club. Until we meet again, farewell.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.